All right, it looks like we're live. So I spent a majority of last year and a part, I guess it was majority of last year, and I'm still deal with it to this day. But like optimizing my process as a creator is it's tough, and it's last year it was really bad because I was getting to the point where I was just really unhappy with the videos that I was making, and come to find out, it wasn't necessarily as much as like I didn't like making videos anymore. It was more all the work that went into it. It was just like a total mess. And let me know down in the chat if you've ever experienced anything like this. If you're a creator, or if you're watching on the replay, let me know down in the comments. If like, when it comes to making content or just being a creative person, things get messy. And I think there's beauty in that process, right? I think that anyone that's a creative person, like whenever let's say you're a songwriter, you're a video editor, anything that is like has to do with art, you're a painter, it gets a little bit messy, and that's okay. But for me, it's like it got to a point last year where it was like I couldn't keep up. I was hating having to make a video every week. Like my process was all off. And if you're here on the stream, let me know down in the chat. See, we got a couple people here on the stream. Let me know, say hello. But yeah, what I want to do today is kind of talk about those specific things that I have in place now that have made it sustainable for me as a creative person, whether that's editing videos, whether that's making filming videos, and hopefully it'll be something that'll be helpful for you. And I also want to give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you guys have on like specific things that you're struggling with, because I don't want to make this like a productivity video, but I do want to make it something that where you guys can get some like immediate value in your process. So as I'm waiting for those questions to come in, I'll just kind of riff for a minute on like some of the things that I decided to do that really helped me improve. Like just my content got better. My, everything started like my mindset was better and my mental health was better. Life at home was so much better. And so the first thing that I decided was that like looking at those, like how much stuff are you actually doing in your life? Like, maybe write down a list of all the things that you do in your life. Like for me, I'm a dad. I work a 9-to-5 job. I edit videos. I also run a video business and a photo business. And so I make money from that. I don't know if I said this YouTube channel, but I also script videos. I create all my thumbnails. I do all the things when it comes to like creating content for YouTube. And I do all of that within like a 7-day period. And so like that can easily become overwhelming for a person. So it's a matter of like, when you write down all the things that you do or try to track all those things that you do, then the next step that was helpful for me was starting to eliminate those things that were not a priority. And I think really the most important thing is like, I hate to say this because I don't want this to sound like some motivational stuff, but I think it's really important is just to have like an actual goal. Like, what is your goal for the year? Is your goal to create more content for YouTube, or is your goal to make more money with your photo and video business? And I realized that my photo and video business, like I do for my 9-to-5 job, I do photo and video work for my 9-to-5 job, but I also have my photo and video business. And the photo and video business, I realized that I needed to dial back that just a little bit, because my focus was that I wanted my YouTube channel to be more of my business. And I wanted to talk about my experiences from my photo and video business as well as my 9-to-5 job. Now, I don't like to take a lot of the content that I shoot at my 9-to-5 job and put it here on the YouTube channel, but I do like to share those experiences. So the example from my personal experience was that I started cutting down on the amount of photo and video clients that I was taking on. Now, it gets a little bit tricky depending on where you're located whenever you're doing photo and video work for clients, because sometimes you'll get referrals. That's in this business, what I've noticed is like word of mouth is so powerful, and it's been my number one source for lead generation. So people just like refer me to other people, and usually I will, end up working with that person. So I stopped doing as many photo and video jobs. So then I'm like, you only have 24 hours in the day. And the difference between us and like guys like I don't know, Jeff Bezos or, anybody that's like a billionaire, is the decisions that they make during the day. Right. So they're with that time. We all have the same amount of time, but it's the decisions that we make given the time that we have. Right. And so I really try to think about, it's like, how can I work smarter, not harder? And like, so first thing was just like eliminate one piece from that, right? So I'm taking away some of the photo and video clients, cutting down on that. And then like, okay, now what are the bottlenecks in my process for like creating content? Well, I have to script my videos. Well, the first thing is I have to come up with video ideas. And so one thing that I will say for anyone, this was a huge thing for me whenever it was coming to creating content. Like when you play the game of YouTube, this may be a little bit more of an advanced tip, but maybe not so much, because nowadays creators that are like just getting started are so much smarter than I was whenever I was first getting started back. That was like 2016, 2017. And so like getting into the game, like you'll hear like things like outlier theory. You should only make videos on topics that people care about, or you need to come up with you need to spend a majority of your time on ideation and a little amount of your time just, on execution. But what that did for me is like, especially in the niche that I'm in, it gave me analysis paralysis. It made me get to the point of where I was overthinking everything that I was doing, and I wasn't actually enjoying the content that I was making because I was so rushed in making it, and the quality of the content suffered. So I will say that if you're just getting started with content, just start making something. Don't worry about like all the rules and stuff for success. Like all that stuff can come later. But if you're in a point to where you just aren't making anything, I think you just need to make something, because you'll start to get some momentum after you have been creating for a little while. But it's easy to fall into that, like, oh, I'm not going to make anything because it's not going to be good enough for YouTube, and it's not going to get that, it's not going to get views. So, and then the views is another thing. It's like the 1 of 10. Like if you guys make YouTube videos, the 1 out of 10 or the 10 out of 10 thing, for a lot of times that would be the difference. That would be the determining factor on how my week went, or how, exactly, or how that week was going to go, was based off of the number out of 10 that video. And that's toxic, super toxic for your mental health. But again, if you're anything like me and you have that, like, I have more of I'm really critical of myself. It's like I know I can always work harder, but I was getting to a point where I was just starting to become defeated, because willpower alone will only get you so far when it comes to, I feel like, anything in life. So I needed to figure out like what were the bottlenecks in the system that I had for my YouTube videos. Well, I decided that I was scripting my videos. There'd be times where I would script videos word for word, and then it would take me forever to film them because I don't use like a teleprompter or anything. And then there would be times where I would just like do bullet points, and those videos would do well. And so I had started to figure out like, okay, I've already figured out what the title and the thumbnail is going to be for this video. I have the idea for the video. The next step is the scripting portion. What am I going to do as far as like scripting my video? Am I going to use like actually script the full video, or am I going to use bullet points? And so I figured out like, okay, I'm just going to do bullet points for now until I can get some more momentum. And I started to realize that bullet points was just beneficial for me. And this is a thing for everyone. Like there's a bunch of different ways that you can go about it, but this is the point that I'm trying to make here is that you're just kind of going through your process and finding out where the friction points are that are slowing you down and causing you to not enjoy the process. Because some people can script out an entire video, throw it on a teleprompter, and they'll just be fine with that. And if you want to make YouTube videos like that, you could totally do it that way. It's going to be it's going to take a lot more time on the front end whenever you're actually doing film or like planning your videos. But when it comes to execution on like filming the video and then post-production, editing the video, it's going to be super fast. So, and that might be important for you because it might align with your lifestyle. And so, which is another thing, is it's like, you got to tailor, I think for me, I had to tailor tailor my process to my lifestyle, because I'm also a dad and I don't want to be spending all these nights staying up late at night editing videos. I can't do that. So as I'm moving along throughout my process, it's like, okay, what can I refine? So I'm starting to refine these different systems and stuff like that. So go through there and look at those things. And then now that you've kind of refined all those areas or looked at all those areas, I start asking yourself, what are some things that I can actually outsource? last year I found an awesome thumbnail designer who I need to get in contact with again. Like I've been doing a lot of my own thumbnails lately, but that took a lot of like when I could delegate a task that's extremely important for YouTube to someone that is good at that task, and they can use their entire headspace to allocate time to that task versus me just kind of like doing it very quickly. And like, it's really hard whenever you got a lot of different things that you're working on to try to do it the best way that, you give somebody one task, they're going to do it extremely well versus giving it being like one of like 20 tasks that one person has to do. So the quality of work is going to be so much higher. And thumbnail designers are fairly inexpensive, but like, how can you outsource or delegate those certain things in your life? And these are like specific things that you can do personally, right? So instead of going to the grocery store and shopping at the grocery store, all you have to do is just do an online pickup order. And then that saved me so much time just doing it. Or you can also, and some people are privileged, like for the Walmart pickup order, anybody can do it because it's free if you spend up to a certain dollar amount, as far as I know, at least here in the United States. But Walmart will actually deliver your groceries to your door as well. And that's something that if you can afford it, you can pay for. So basically you're paying for that service so that you can get back some of your time. And one thing that I read, I think I heard it from like Naval Ravikant, or it comes from Naval Ravikant. It's like, if you were to put a dollar amount on your time, how much would it be worth to you? And so that way you're more mindful of whenever you're just saying, and this goes into the next thing, is like knowing when to say no to other things. And the reason you're saying no is because the thing that you're saying no to does not exceed doesn't justify how much time it would take to do that thing. So, I normally charge people $1,000 to work with me for an hour, if that's how much you charge people. And the thing that someone's asking you to do is would they pay you $1,000 to do it? Or would it, yield some sort of a result that would be worth $1,000 to you? So, and that's where it comes into like family things too. Family is what gets tricky, right? When mom asks you to come and help, I'm like, I got to go help my mom. She, wiped my ass whenever I was a kid. And, so like those are the types of things you want to give back to your family. But there does come a time where you have to kind of have some respect for yourself, and you do have to take time for yourself and say no. Because one other thing that I've heard and I live by is like, you have to make sacrifices for your goal, or your goal will become the sacrifice. So when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to your goal. So that's something that I'll just like try to be mindful of whenever I like going into being more like mindful and making sure that I'm taking care of this thing, because all we're trying to do here is make this thing sustainable. And it's extremely hard whenever you're doing this part-time. It's so much harder. I can't speak because I haven't been a full-time creator yet, but I can speak from doing this part-time that it is extremely hard if you're not like very intentional with your time. And another thing is like, so with that, like start to delegate those things and then say no. Now, another thing that's really been really helpful for me has been like just putting deadlines on things. Parkinson's law says that a task will swell in proportion to the amount of time given to that said task. Meaning like, if you give yourself a week to edit this video, it's going to take you a week. But if you give yourself 1 day, or let's say 5 hours to edit this video, and you're going to send it to the client, you will get that video edited in 5 hours. It may not be your best work, but somehow we roll out of bed in the morning if we're running late, whereas it normally takes us like 30 minutes to an hour to get ready. If we roll out of bed and we're late for work, we can get out the door in like 5 minutes. So it's just the power of like putting deadlines on things. And here's what I do when I'm doing my work. I don't have my phone here with me, or at least I don't see where it's at right now, but I will put a timer on my phone. And I'll set it for like 1 hour for the task. And I would challenge you to do this just for one work day. If you can do this at work, if they allow you to have your phone out and everything like that. And don't be scrolling through social media and stuff like that, but just put a timer on the task that you're doing, and then see how much quickly you get these things done. And for me, it's just been like incredibly helpful. Like, I'm going to study for 1 hour and I set the timer. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I was just a person that's like super loose with my time. Some people are more critical with their time. For me, I was just like, yeah, I'm like keeping track of it in my head, but before you know it, like 3 or 4 hours have gone by, and then I don't know where the time went. And that happens. The reason why that happens too is because I'll get into the next piece. Is like and it looks like we got someone said, I've thought about using a timer to help me stay on track. It's great for that. Like it allows you to be intentional, right? So if you're doing like if you're time blocking and stuff like that, and some people do that, some people don't. Like you don't have to necessarily do that. But what I like to do is I like to give myself 5 big things that I need to do to move the needle for the day. And what you're doing is like I used to just be like, hey, I'm going to get up today and maybe I'll work on a YouTube script, whatever I feel like doing. No, you got to like write down what you're going to do. And then you don't have to necessarily put a time to it, but you can just be like, okay, once you sit down at your station or you have a time available, sit there and like actually look at what you're going to do and then give yourself a deadline for that time. So if I'm going to edit this video, I got 2 hours to edit this video. And once I'm done with it, I'm done after those 2 hours. And the reason why it's important to be done after those 2 hours is because you got to stay true to yourself, because if you're almost like lying to yourself if you go over that deadline. And so again, Lady Music says, oh, wow, I had no idea this was actually live, but then you read my comment. Wow, what's up? Thank you for these tips. I need it. Absolutely. Well, maybe that means that hopefully it sounds like it was pre-recorded. So hopefully that means I'm not doing a terrible job here. So thanks for being on the stream. It's good to have you. But like, yeah, so when you're like lying to yourself if you don't actually stick to your deadline. So use a timer and stick to that deadline, because before you know it, you're going to have all these tasks that you wanted to complete done in the first, like the in the morning time, right? So I'm reading a book right now, and I know a lot of you probably are not into reading books and stuff like that. I'm reading a book. It's from Japanese culture called Ikigai, and it talks about like, there's things that you can do as far as like performance. Like last year, I was all about wanting to improve my energy levels, and then I was wanting to be like my energy levels to be improved, and for me to be more productive with my time. And I was like, how can I do that? Well, this book also talked about like, people that lived, and I'll give you the short version so we don't have to be long-winded here, but you pick up the book if you want to read it. It's great. But the Okinawans have like the most centurions. All right. They live to more people that live to be 100 years old. I probably said that completely wrong. And so the book talks about like how to live a long and happy life. And so that's not necessarily what this video is about, but one of the key things that they talked about is there's like to fill, like they would say that to fill your stomach to 80%. So what I've done is I've realized is like I've adjusted my diet and I've cut out carbs a little bit. And I'm not like saying, trust me, I love donuts, I love cookies, I love any stuff that has carbs in it. I'm a big person with carbs, especially because I do like bodybuilding, and I need a certain amount of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. They're all important. But I noticed that during my lunchtime, let me know if you've in the chat, if you've ever felt tired after your lunch. After you eat lunch, have you ever felt like tired and sluggish at work? Because I can tell you I have, like too many times. And a lot of that comes from like heavy eating. And what I've learned is like, if you have like a lot of carbs, because carbs, I guess, are harder for your body to digest. Don't quote me on the science. No clue on the science. I just know what's been working up here is having less carbs during my lunch. So I'll have like high protein. I'll have like 2 chicken breasts or something like that, get like 50 grams of protein. And then I'll have like, I don't know, like a granola bar or something, which is only like 24 grams of carbs. And then that's plenty for me. But the problem was before I would do green beans, or I would do some sort of a vegetable, and I would do rice. And before you know it, I've gotten like 60 to 70 grams of carbs. And then after I'm done eating my lunch, I'm like so sluggish. So in Ikigai, it talks about fill your stomach to like 80% full. And what I've translated from the book is like, just maybe consume less carbs, and then and move your body too. Right. So I know this sounds, any doctor is going to tell you to do this after you get done eating. If you have a chance, try to go on a walk for a little bit, like maybe 10-minute walk, and put your phone in your pocket. It's really good for ideation. Is to because when we, go on a walk and we're looking through our phone, or if we're listening to an audiobook or a podcast in our ear, you don't actually get that time for any of your internal ideas in your brain to really digest and develop. So, because I do this all the time. I've made I catch myself doing it even to this day. It's like I'll be listening to a podcast and I just want to start. It's so convenient, right? You're learning information, but we need that. We need times of ingestion and digestion. So that's another piece of it too. Is like, don't get so caught up in the, or for me, I got too caught up in the learning. Like there's a lot of books that are down here and I haven't read all of them, but I was on a mission to read a bunch of books, but I realized that books aren't really that great if you don't actually take action on it. It's like reading a book on how to box or reading a book on how to play basketball, but never actually taking a shot. So now what I try to do is like, I try to say, and I got this from somebody on YouTube. It's the big communications guy. He's got a lot of popular videos. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it's like read one chapter and write down one thing that you're going to do to take action on from that chapter. And you can apply this for your creative things, like things that you learn. So what I'm saying is like, I stopped passively consuming information and I started consuming information with intentionality, like a podcast. Like, don't get me wrong, you don't have to have a notepad if you're listening to a podcast on the way to work. But a lot of times I would be like wanting to listen to a podcast to learn information, but then as soon like a week will go by and I'll completely forget that I listened to the podcast because I didn't take any notes or anything like that. So I don't think you necessarily have to. Basically, what I'm saying is have dedicated times for you to actually learn information and watch educational content, and then have dedicated times for you to be creating and making things. Right. So we got a couple people popping up in the chat. Let's see. Lady Music says donuts are the bomb, but I've cut stuff too, and I love lifting weights as well, man. I feel so much better. Yeah, it's like, and donuts. I'll tell you. Let me know if you have Krispy Kreme where you're at, because I'm like I'm weak when it comes to being disciplined, and if people have Krispy Kreme donuts around. But there's just like so much like grease and stuff that are in donuts. And again, I don't want to sit here and be like, because I sound like an old person, as I'm not the youngest person. I'm 32 years old, but like it still doesn't, like, if you can optimize for, basically the outputs are dictated by the inputs, right? So if you put good food in your body, meaning like just not as much junk, the outputs, the things that you create are going to be so much higher quality too. Less carbs plus more protein equals more satiated meals. Yes, absolutely. And so again, too, carbs are the body's main source of energy, unless you're doing like a keto diet and stuff like that. So again, I'm not giving any health advice or anything here. Do your own research. It's important. Like, your health is so important when it comes to like being sustainable, especially as a creator. And again, I didn't want to make this like I don't want to sound like your doctor, but unfortunately, I say unfortunately, but like these cliche things that you hear all the time from doctors, and I'll talk about some of these things, these other things here in just a second, are like, these things have stood the test of time. Like, you're supposed to drink water. Water is extremely important. Believe it or not, if you're staying high, like for me, I try to drink a gallon of water a day. I weigh 160 pounds and I drink a gallon of water a day. That's what I need for like, and you can Google your age, how much you weigh and your height and everything like that. But drinking a gallon, I try to, don't get me wrong. I do not meet that every single day. I'm not perfect by any means, but I try to, drinking water is important because that's going to boost your energy levels. And if you have higher energy levels, you're more likely to get things done. You're a lot less likely to, for me, to procrastinate. I can't tell you how many times I've just been like having a bad day. And then I'm just like, you know what? Today sucks. I'll get to it tomorrow. Too many times I've done that. Or too many times where I've just not gotten enough sleep, which is the next thing. You need to get like 7 to 9 hours of sleep. I heard something about like, if you get anything, I used to be like the guy that would be like, hey, if I get 4 hours of sleep, I'm good. I cannot run on anything less than 4. But then I heard if you get less than 6 hours of sleep, it's like the equivalent of like brain damage. So you need to have like at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Now, some people can run off of 7, but if you got your start, that is the foundational thing, right, for your day. It's like how much sleep that you get, good quality sleep, dictates the momentum that you have for the rest of the day. And what I realized too is that it really starts the day prior. The day prior is what dictates the following day. So I don't want to get into too much of the science, but if you go to bed at the same time every single day, you start to program that circadian rhythm so that when your body sparks course. So basically I'm talking about your internal alarm clock. So you go to bed at the same time every day. So for me, I try to go to bed at like 10 o'clock 9:30, 10 o'clock. And then you wake up the next morning at like 6 o'clock, and you do that every day. And what was really, I heard it was explained so beautifully to me. I thought I was just like, my mind exploded. It's like, we all know we need to go to sleep. We all know we need 8 hours of sleep, but I didn't understand the concept of like the internal alarm clock and like how you can, like, your body would just be ready to go. You're less likely to have resistance. Like, so if you go to bed at your normal bedtime and when you're doing, let's say you're editing a video, right? And it's getting close to 10 o'clock. You're like, okay, you have to make a decision. This is one of those, like, where this is one of those choices things where I was talking about, like, the difference between, Jeff Bezos and, everyone, those guys that are billionaires, we all have 24 hours in a day. And, people that are trying to make it, is the decisions that they make. And this is a decision, like, so am I going to stay up and start messing with the chemicals, like, in my head or in my body, really not in my head, just my whole body? Or am I going to go to sleep so I don't mess up my circadian rhythm and everything like that, and I feel like crap tomorrow? And I start asking, is it worth that? So usually what I'll do is like, okay, I'm going to get to a stopping point right here, and I'm going to bed. I don't mess around with my bedtime because that affects tomorrow. And so that's the big thing, not to, be long-winded on going to bed, but it sounds like an old person thing, but you'll feel so much better if you're just getting good sleep. And I think we as video editors, we do not do a good job of that. I can say, at least for me anyways, I have not done the best at just going to bed on time. I still, I have some buddies that are creators as well. I was like, I've had them there. I'll get to certain points where hey, I need you to text me and just be like, hey, are you going to bed? And it sounds like your parents telling you to, like, hey, it's bedtime. But I'll get into my, I'll get my night routine where, like, I try to take a shower before bed because there's this thing called, like, sleep hygiene. Helps you actually sleep better if you take a shower before you go to bed. I don't know if it's woo-woo or not, but it works for me. And there might be some science that backs it. But anyways, I'll have them, like, text me because I'll get in there and I'll just be like, I'll be laying in the bed and I'll be scrolling through short form content, or maybe I'll just, like, pull out a book and I'm like, I'm going to read. I'm like, no, you need to close your eyes and go to bed. And so that's been helpful for me. I know, like, everybody has their own way of going to sleep because some people can't turn their brains off, right? So for those people that can't really turn their brains off, because, there's times, especially if I'm stressed, if I have a lot of stuff going on. We just had tax season going on. There's plenty of nights where I was going to bed stressed, like, I got to get this paperwork and I got to do all these things. But, like, if that's the case, try to maybe stop looking at your phone an hour before bed, and don't look at your phone an hour until, like, you're an hour, or you've been awake for like an hour. So go to bed on time, like, try to do that consistently, and then wake up at the same time every single day. And don't, like, respect yourself. Like what I was talking about with the, like, be disciplined and stick to your own word. Don't lie to yourself, and respect yourself by saying, I know I'm going to be tired in the morning, but I'm going to get up. Until you get used to it, until it becomes like, what we're trying to do is formulate a habit. And I don't want to talk to you about, like, I don't probably want to get into habits too much here. You want to read a good book on habits, just read it. James Clear's Atomic Habits book. It's really good, but that, habits are, that's what you're going to start to formulate as you do that. So let's see. We got some other people popping up in the chat here. Sweet Paul says, I use a timer when doing my reports on Excel. I do 1 hour at a time, then take a break. This way I can do 3 to 4 sessions, making solid progress instead of spending hours getting nothing done. Love that. I think, that's kind of a version of the Pomodoro technique, which I didn't talk about yet, but I think it's great too. So the Pomodoro technique, for anyone that's a beginner, it's great for that, especially whenever you're trying to get into, like, just get into your work. Like, so many times I'm like, I know this is going to be a lot of work. I really don't want to do this, but I know I need to do it. And before the Pomodoro technique, I didn't really have, and I use this even to this day every now and then, especially on difficult things that I just don't want to do, is like, you got to say to yourself, okay, I'm only going to work on this for 25 minutes. And after 25 minutes, I'm giving myself a 5-minute break, and then I can be done for, those 5 minutes or however long I need to be done. But at least 25 minutes. And a lot of times what I'll find myself doing, I'll get into 25 minutes and then I tap into, like, I get into flow state, and then I'm, like, working on this thing for, like, what Squid Paw said, like 1 to 2 hours, and it takes, like, it just makes it so much easier. And flow state's important, right? And they talk about that in the book I was talking about, Ikigai. And Mihai or Dr. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. I can't pronounce his name properly, but there's a book out there called Flow. I definitely recommend reading that book as well, especially from a creator standpoint, because have you ever been, and I don't, again, nobody's paying me to say any of this. These are just great books that I've read that have helped me. But how does flow pertain to me being more productive as a creative? Well, like what happens is like when you're working on something, flow is like where you're working on something and it's kind of hard, but it's not so hard to where you just like hate it. And you just like are complaining about it the entire time. Think video editing, right? We know we kind of have an idea like how we want to edit the video. And you ever heard that saying, time flies whenever you're having fun? Or like you think about the example I think that was given in the book was like, I'm trying to think about like when we're sitting at the DMV, it seems like, or we're sitting at school, it seems like time's moving slow. But if you're ever hanging out with a girl, like you're a pretty girl, like on a date, it's like, man, you could have been hanging out with her for like 6 hours, but you're like, where did the time go? So when you're in flow state, it's like time is like, it just flies and you're just like locked in. And so to get in a flow state, one, it's got to be something that is a bit of a challenge. It can't be too easy because you won't tap into flow. You won't concentrate and focus. And there can't be a bunch of distractions. And that's really hard, right? And so I'm talking about everything down to like the number of icons on your desktop. And you guys would, probably cuss me out if you saw what my desktop looks like right now, because there's a lot of them. It's just like, I get these sometimes where it's just like, like when it comes to art, right? Like I was talking about earlier, things get messy and then you got to clean up and fix it. But yeah, right now it's you don't want to have as much stuff going on. You don't want to have 25 tabs open. Just have your editing software opened up and just focus on editing that video and leave it at that. Don't be listening to a bunch of music in the background. Don't have your phone kind of put away and turn down, turn upside down or something. Turn off your notifications if you can. But yeah, so that's getting into like flow state. And that also, I've heard it called the momentum zone. So that's where you're going to do your best work. So it takes about 10 to 15 minutes to get into flow state. You got to be working on something for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then you get into that momentum zone where you just start like you're dialed in, flow state's tapped in, and then you just kind of forget anything's even going on the outside. I'm sure you guys have all experienced this in your own way, especially guys that are like they're into playing sports too. It happens all the time whenever you're playing sports. Like, man, I thought we just got started. I didn't realize that, it's already over. So those are just some things you can apply to like with flow state, how it can help improve your creative process. So let's see. LOL, Cinnabon is my sweet weakness. Yeah, Cinnabon's good too. I'm awful at getting 5 to 6 hours of sleep. I rarely get 7. Yeah, so sleep is so important. It is so important. And like, you can buy things to monitor your sleep. Like you can buy an Aura ring. I don't have an Aura ring, but the biggest thing is like what I've learned from me is the foundational thing that determines the entirety of the next day is what time I go to bed. If I go to bed at a decent time, I'll get up the next day and then I will feel so much better. And the quality of my work will be so much better because it's important, right? Because it's important because there's been times where I've been editing videos till 2:00 in the morning. And then I wake up the next day and post the video, not the next day. I wake up that morning and post the video and the video gets no views, or it doesn't get to my standard of views, and it's a 10 of 10. And then you're like, oh my gosh, like, I physically put myself into physical pain to go through this by losing sleep. And then the video just flopped. With that, let me get back to like where I was at, and that's how I would do things. Now what I do is I've kind of, went through and kind of figured out how can I make content and make it sustainable. And the only way that I've been able to do it is by batching content. All the biggest creators do it, from whether you're in the entertainment like side of YouTube or if you're on the educational side of YouTube, you have to batch. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. And the thing that I overthought whenever it was coming to batching was like, how can I come up with all these ideas? Because we want to stay like, you want to batch, but you want to leave room for trending topics if you want to talk about any of those trending topics. And then you can kind of just like plug them in and kind of move things around. But if you can get like a month ahead, man, you can shoot 4 videos. Like just say you post 1 video a week. This is like bare minimum, right? 1 video a week. and you can do that like all in one day, shoot 4 videos. Then you have 3 other weeks. Well, you got 4 weeks really, because you can edit the video in 1 week if you want to. 4 weeks to edit 4 videos and get them posted. So I recommend have a week for that you're going to film your videos, have a week for, this is what worked for me now. You can do it however it aligns to with your schedule. Edit, or you got a week that you just, edit, or I'm sorry, film your 4 videos, and then you edit your 4 videos like the next week, or you edit that first video and then the remaining videos the following week. And then you got time to take a break. Like you're not a slave to the hamster wheel. And that's, the content hamster wheel. Squid Paul says, I forgot to mention that during that hour, I don't look at my phone until the timer goes off. Yes. So good. Like, it's so important. It's like all these companies, and it just the way that the world works. Like these companies are all businesses that are just trying to make money, and they throw a lot of money at trying to understand human nature and like how to get us to, react to whatever it is, right? Whether it's a notification on your phone or if it's an ad that you see on, the internet. Like it's all designed to be able to agitate the individual, get your wheels rolling in your mind to be able to pull your focus. And that's why they say attention spans are going down. And maybe they are, I don't know scientifically, but I can say that there are more distractions than there have ever been. I mean, we know things that, one thing I heard not too long ago is that we know, and this is why I think a lot of people hold a lot more anxiety than people did, 100, 200 years ago. This is because we know more information than a human being that would normally know 200 years ago, right? We know like anything, like if you watch the news, which I don't recommend watching the news. I'm not saying this isn't politics related at all. I think the news is just designed to just get you to like, they want to get your attention. And so that's why all these letters are always in like big red, bold letters and stuff like that. So I don't really watch the news because like you definitely want to find a way of staying informed. Usually I get my news through my family. I'll talk to them. You can find other ways, whether it's through friends. If it's important, you're going to hear about it. But don't just like actively participate in like turning the news on and listening to all the politics or whatever is going on. Like there's a fire happening, because what that's going to do is like you're just consuming that. It's just going to wear you down. So I try to be very mindful of what I consume, whether it's with my eyes or with my ears or how I receive information. And that's also the things that what I think. So I try to, all the negative, I try to keep away, right? So if it's negative information, I try not to consume it. If it's negative thoughts, I try to cast it away. And I know that's easier said than done. If you read like Think and Grow Rich, or if you read, there's another good book out there called Psycho-Cybernetics. It's a good one. And it just talks about like what you think becomes your reality, right? So I've heard the example is like, people tell you that you're bad at drawing. You're going to grow up thinking with that belief that you suck at drawing, and therefore you will suck at drawing. Or if you think you're bad at math, you'll grow up sucking at math. And that could have been something that somebody said to you. But also just like, so what the whole point is behind what I'm saying is that just protecting your own energy levels and not allowing external stimuli to dictate your performance levels, if that makes sense. So I'm just very cautious with it. And it's easier said than done. Sometimes you just accidentally see something on social media. Like you scroll past and you're just like, what was that? And it can throw you off. But when you can be intentional, I strongly suggest it. Lady Music says, oh, I love listening to music. It actually helps me to focus. Yes, music is great. One of the things, man, I wish I had it here. Music is great, but it just depends on, from what I've learned and from my own experience, anything that has like a lot of lyrics in it, it kind of distracts me. But that's not always the case, because it depends on what I'm doing, right? If I'm outside cutting my grass, I can listen to whatever music I want to listen to, whether it has music in it or if it doesn't, or I'm sorry, if it has lyrics in it or if it's just instrumental. But if I'm doing like video editing, or if I'm like writing, if I'm working on like scripting or something like that, man, I tell you, honestly, I'll put like the old Pokemon game soundtrack, just the instrumental. I will listen to that you look it up on Spotify, which is, if you played Pokemon as a kid, dude, it's like next level, and it's like good for you. Or I'll listen to like, the Oppenheimer soundtrack, like the soundtrack I don't think there was any, it was all instrumental. I listen to that as well whenever I'm working. So music is another great. So thanks for mentioning that. As far as like being productive, and also music has a way of just like flipping a switch in your mind and just completely changing, like making you be more creative. Like a lot of creators, to include myself, will, before they start a video, they'll listen to a song and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm making a video because I found this music track," and they just gives you a whole nother level of inspiration. Love that you mentioned that. Thank you. I track sleep with Fitbit. Definitely helps. Yeah, I'm not familiar with Fitbit. I need to do better about tracking my sleep and stuff like that. I just know, like, when I started getting the right amount of sleep, I just started feeling so much better. And believe it or not, like sleep affects your short-term memory. It affects your cognitive ability. It gives you can get higher, you have higher blood pressure, higher anxiety. Like there's so many things that sleep is so much more important than when you're young. You're just like, you're a machine. And I'm not trying to act like I'm old or anything like that, but the older you get, the more it shows in your natural ability. And I think it's a good practice to have, even if you're young, that to just like to try to get some good rest and to track that stuff, because it's so important. Who is Alyssa says, tips for aspiring creators on how to balance that and working full time without getting burnt out. Yeah, so we were talking a little bit about that earlier, but that it's hard. It's been so hard for me. I spent all of last year trying to figure out what that even looks like. And if I could break it down to anything, like if I just broke it down in its simplest parts or its core parts, it's just systems. Systems are the thing. And then, so there's a book called Thinking in Systems. If I recommend anyone read it, but you don't have to read it. I'll give you kind of the short version of it here. When you're as a part-time creator, it's like you're trying to figure out what that's going to look like. And so again, I recommend Who is Alicia? If you just go back, if you haven't been here the entire time, and listen to some of the things I talked about earlier in the stream, because I think they'll be super helpful, because I talked about a little bit on how to balance that, that work-life balance the best that you can. But coming up with a system, right? So what does that look like from given your lifestyle? What are the things that you do? What are the things that you like start to track your time? Like, and then literally time, when you're like every hour, write down something that you're doing for like a week straight. You don't have to do it for a week straight. I know that's a lot, but that's going to give you the best results. Do it for a few days and then start to cross off and look at your screen time too, right? So start looking at, like, minimize the amount of time that you're using your phone and only use your phone for, especially whenever you're trying to, if this is something that you want to go all in on, minimize the amount of time that you're spending on your phone unless the thing that you're doing on your phone is an income producing activity or an activity that will help you produce more content. And an activity that will help you produce more content is not watching a podcast. Again, I talked about this a little bit earlier. It was like consuming intentionally versus passive consumption. Some people, they'll call it, I mean, you hear it online, it's called mental masturbation. Like you literally are just consuming content because you're trying to take in information, but are you actually applying the things that you're learning? So coming up with a system that allows you to be, and batching has been the number one biggest thing when it could, for me, like being able to be making it sustainable. Because if not, you're making a new video every single week and you got like, you film the video and you got the timer's ticking down to, is because you want to be consistent. You want to post on the same day. And then another tip that I would advise on, or I would say, is like, pick one platform. Too many times I see is like, I want to grow my Instagram, I want to grow my TikTok account, I want to grow my YouTube channel. And those are 3 different platforms, 3 different algorithms, and 3 different ways of like consuming, like 3 different audiences. Essentially, you have different audiences on different platforms. Like, sure, some of the guys convert over, but the way I consume content on Instagram is not the same way that I consume content on YouTube. And I don't like a creator that I watch. I will look at Peter McKinnon's photos on Instagram, but I will watch Peter McKinnon's videos on YouTube. And so it's a lot. Just think about the amount of energy that we have. If you were to think of the amount of energy, that's going back to what I was thinking about last year. It's like, if you were to break your like how much energy you have $100. We're going to get the amount of energy you have is equivalent to $100. If you were to, Every time that you decide to do something, you're cashing in that $100 each day. All right. So you're spending that, you're spending $10. You're spending $10 here, you're spending $10 there. And before you know it, do you have just like, have you put $100 worth of your time and energy into that thing that you're trying to move the needle on? Or are you putting it into, like, think about progress? And I can't really draw it out here, but if I were to put like 100% of my energy into one specific thing, it's going to yield much, much bigger results than it would be if I was just like, you ever heard the saying, chase two rabbits, catch none? And so that's what I would do, is like focus on one platform, focus on building systems that are going to make it sustainable for you. And then experiment. Like, don't just limit yourself to like do things that you want to do too. So there's so many rules, and content creation it can feel very rigid because you see the best creators online talking about, oh, the idea is the most important thing. You need to spend 30% of your time. Like, don't get me wrong, I think that advice is great. And I think it's definitely, it's real. It's like, it works. People do it, it gets results. But for someone that is doing this part-time, again, you need to figure out how you can make it sustainable for you. You got to know your own personality. Like for me, when I started thinking that, I got analysis paralysis. I would be on here, doing recon and research, looking on YouTube. It's like trying to come up with ideas for things that I think people would be interested in. And then I would just find nothing. And I would be like, I can't make anything because I haven't seen anybody create anything that's really, a big idea. And so again, that could be my own inability or my own inexperience in, I say my own inexperience in take like outlier theory, but I've just been so much happier making content about ideas that I want, or about things that I want to talk about, versus trying to just make top videos around trending topics. I think you should sprinkle in both, but I would not just try to make videos around trending topics. So who is Alicia? I hope that was helpful. Again, go back and watch some of the or things that I talked about earlier in the stream, because I think those will be incredibly helpful for you as well. And so another thing, I just have to say it because I have to say it. Time blocking is important. How many times have you, let me know down in the chat, how many times have you like forgotten, had something fall off your radar? For me, it's been so many times. Especially the more things that you do, the more likely you're going to forget something. If you're going to college and you work a full-time job and you have a YouTube channel and you have a kid and you have a family that you like to spend time with, I guarantee you there are things inside of all of those different areas of your life that are there's gonna be things they're gonna ask of you, and you're gonna forget something. So like for me, birthdays go in the calendar. I always put, and as soon as I make an appointment, it goes in the calendar. And like, so let's talk about like structure. When it comes to like content creation, I think what was helpful for me was like literally structuring my calendar. I have a calendar for my YouTube channel, which is like a business calendar. Structuring that the same way that I would like at my workplace for my 9-to-5 job. Super helpful whenever I was doing that. Like I was able to just kind of like look and see what times I have available. And there's some flexibility to that, right? When we're doing creative work, I'll put like creative time in there. But then again, when I'm doing like, I usually plan tomorrow today. So I will, at the end of my day, I'll write down the 5 things that I need to do tomorrow. And then I'll look at my time block on my calendar. It says creative time. And I'll be like, okay, what I'm doing in my creative time is I'm finishing up this YouTube script tomorrow. That's what I'm going to do. But time blocking is important. You can do this in your own way, but I think that the way that you do it wrong is if you just do a bunch of time blocking just because you like to see different colors on your calendar. Terrible idea. Tim Ferriss talks about, what is it? It talks about like efficiency without regard to effectiveness is a form of laziness. So what that means is like, if you are trying to be efficient, but it's not effective, like reorganizing your calendar, but it doesn't actually do anything to move you closer towards your goal, all you're doing is busy work. So instead of doing busy work, do things like line your calendar so it's practical for your lifestyle and just get it done. A lot of times for me, what I realized is that I was taking myself too seriously. when it comes to like being optimized my life, when really I just need to like, hey, here's your time to do these things. Just write down what you're going to do and do it during that time. Instead of being like, okay, at this time I'm going to do this, at this time, because I would spend an hour just doing my calendar. And that would have been an hour I could have been focused on working and creating versus just like building out my calendar, which was a total waste of time. Lady Music said, I've thought about my time as a financial budget before. Such a good point. Yeah, it's like, it's game changing. It's like whenever you start to think about like how costly it is whenever you waste time. And again, that's like, so another way is like, I'm not telling you do what you want. I don't really drink alcohol anymore either. That was one of the biggest things. I stopped drinking alcohol, stopped drinking energy drinks, stopped drinking sodas, and stopped consuming fast food as much. I still consume fast food, and I still like if I have a soft drink, it's usually like a Sprite or something. And I'm usually like, I'll put it in a shot glass. It's like I'm drinking alcohol over here, and I'll just get a taste and I'm done. But like, and I also cut back on caffeine, and well, really, I've completely cut out caffeine because I realized that coffee gave me more anxiety than it did give me energy. So I'm like, I don't need coffee anymore. I stopped drinking energy drinks. So what I do in the morning, I just get sleep. I sound like a maniac, I'm sure, but it took some time to get used to. But I was like I just want to say compulsive. Like I drink probably 2 energy drinks a day, especially, and it's incredibly unhealthy. I went from that to not drinking any energy drinks at all. And now I just try to drink water. Now for somebody that's a normal person, that's like, again, I don't think that's very normal. You don't have to do all those things, but I think if you like, what was I getting at? I just say like trying to focus on like getting a little bit healthier is going to really help ramp up your energy levels. Cause that's the biggest thing when it comes to procrastination. A lot of it is just because you feel bad. And I realized that like, if you feel healthier and you feel like you have more energy, you don't need all these like crazy morning routines and stuff like that. Like morning routines are great. Don't get me wrong. I think they're good. For my morning routine, I don't look at my phone for the first hour. I don't need, it's not good for you. It's not a good habit to have because you're immediately getting some stimuli and you're making your body feel all kinds of craziness. So I wait 1 hour before I even look at my phone in the mornings, or I'll look at I'll look at the front screen of my phone because, if I get a phone call from a family member, but I will not go into social media and look at notifications. And then I go and I go get up straight and then I go work out in my garage. And some people don't have that luxury, but working out, another life hack, get your energy levels to elevate it. You don't have to go for bodybuilding. You can go for just like do cardio, do CrossFit, whatever you want to do. But something that's going to get your heart rate up. That's really important. I struggle with creating content I think people would like. I try to focus just on what I want to make. Thank you for talking about that. Yeah, it's like, it was really hard for me because I want people to enjoy my content. And I think as artists, that's what we want too, is we want our art to be accepted into the world. And it really changed my thought process whenever I listened to Rick Rubin talk about it, which if you guys don't know who Rick Rubin is, I'm sure a lot of you do know who he is. Check him out. He's a very intelligent person in the music industry, artist. Like he's super, super smart. And he's got a book called The Creative Act, which is great. But it's like his philosophy is like create art that you want to make and put it out into the world. And if people like it and they accept it, they like it and they accept it. But if not, it is what it is. You didn't make that for somebody else. You made it for you. And it's really hard in this world now when going back to my story with like when you post a YouTube video, is it a 1 out of 10 or is it a 10 out of 10? Like how the video performs and it can completely ruin your day. That's why I say that stuff's toxic. It's really hard to not look at those things because I think it's human nature to want to be you want to be the very best. We have that fear of failure. And when you have a video that flops, for me, it's, I dictate that as a failure because people didn't receive it the way that I wanted them to receive it. Or maybe my thumbnail sucked, or maybe my title sucked and I worked so hard on this video, but nobody ever clicked on it. So it can be a little bit demoralizing, but I try to just do a little bit better about having faith in myself and confidence in myself and trust myself. Cause I think that's really important for you as an individual to not be so like, you need to be critical of yourself, but there needs to be like a happy balance there. Because if you're so self-critical to where you just like, I don't know, it turns like you don't love yourself, that's whenever you start having all these problems where you don't trust yourself. Your self-confidence goes down. And then you're like, you just don't want to make videos because you feel like you're not good enough to make videos. And I think that is a road that you don't ever want to go down. So my remedy for that, I've been down that road. I was not too long ago going down that road, questioning everything I was doing. And I think the remedy for that for me was just to make something that I wanted to make, and that don't be so worried about the feedback that you get, and just strive to get a little bit better each time you make a piece of content. And you're going to feel so much better. And whether it's like all in one take, again, experiment with different formats and stuff. And even I'm not perfect. I still get, to this day, I get points in my creation process where like, man, this really sucks. I feel like down on myself, or like, I don't know necessarily like down on myself, but I feel like, yeah, I want to procrastinate. This isn't something that I want to do right now. I want to do something else. This is too hard, or this is, are they going to even enjoy this? And so, yeah, let's see. Hypertrophy or nothing. Yep. Fear of failure. Yes. 100 is so real. Yeah. It's just like, for me, I'm sorry, the autofocus is being kind of crazy right now. Let me see if I can get it to come back. All right, there we go. Yeah, for me, it's just like, that's just always been my personality. I look at this, like, I think YouTube kind of, and they're not doing it in a negative way, but it's very competitive in the YouTube world, and they make it competitive because there's a rating system for your videos. And when you think about, like, if you're look at YouTube as a sport, well, you're competing against the biggest names, and they have so much money for all these trainers, or their teams that they have to help them make the best videos. And it almost feels like it makes you feel hopeless. But the thing that I hold on to is that you as a human being are unique, and you have your own unique experiences. And it doesn't matter what size team, a big creator like, Mr. Beast, or, Mark Rober, those teams, like, they're great. I think they make good content, and people enjoy their content. But there still is an opportunity for you as a creator on the platform, because you have your own unique advantage with your own experiences, things that you've done, problems that you've solved in your life. I guarantee you, there's a lot of people that people won't think about this, but there's people that are famous that you have solved a problem that they don't know how to solve. And if they watch your content, it could be helpful to them. So I always say, like, don't, make something that you want to make, put it out into the world. But let me know questions that you guys have. And if there's any other questions down the chat, we've almost been going an hour here. I don't want to hold up you guys too much. But yeah, let me know if you're watching on the replay, drop a question down in the comments, and I will get back to you guys. I'd love to interact with you all. But it's been really cool getting some feedback from you guys. Again, the autofocus is being crazy. I bet you it's because my lighting's probably off right now. I can't really see my eyes because I'm wearing this hat. But yeah, it's been really cool seeing you guys' questions and stuff like that, and just you're getting your feedback on your experiences, because it's a struggle. Creating content is not something that I don't feel like it's respected. Well, these days it's respected a lot more than it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago. With TikTok, whenever TikTok came out, so many people became more creators, because it was like, we can just post content straight from our phone. Whereas when it was just YouTube and Instagram, a lot of people weren't making content, because Instagram Reels weren't as popular. And, most people, like, the only content that really existed was long form content on YouTube. But, it's like more people are just starting to understand the struggle now, because there's been more case studies, and there's more people creating content these days than ever before. Lady Music says, random question. Love the lights in the background. Where did you get them? These are Govee lights, Govee. Let's see if I can find you a link real quick, and I'll drop it down in the chat. But I got them from Amazon, and you want to get them, if you want to get them for cheap, wait till they go on sale. They usually go on sale during the Black Friday, Cyber Monday period. But I will drop a link right here. It's an affiliate link, so I get a kickback, but it doesn't cost you anything if you want to check it out. Let's see. Hold on. Let me find it. Yep. I'll drop it here in the chat. But yeah, Govi lights, and these things are cool because they're like they're bicolor lights. I can change the color and I can do it directly from my phone. I can turn them on from my phone, or they have like a little button on the floor that you can press and they'll turn on. But right now I just have these set to like the warm tungsten or the warmest setting because I like the way that it looks with this daylight softbox setup that I have here. But yeah, super. Oh, whoops, wrong one. Awesome. Much appreciated. Yeah, Govi. And they don't have like the flickering either, right? So if you're shooting at like 120 frames per second or 60 frames per second, you have these in your shot, or if you're using them for like your lighting and stuff like that, they're pretty nice. But all right, guys, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys hopping on the stream today. It was cool hanging out with everyone. I hope you all have a good weekend. And if you're tuning in on the replay, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. You guys have a good weekend.